Hello and thank you for joining me. Today I'm taking another look at a wine I've made a tasting video of before. Penfolds Bin 28 from South Australia. It's Kalimna Shiraz. However, on this occasion I'm looking at the 2018 vintage. I think the last video we did was the 2014, so we'll see if there are any differences here. Just to recap on Penfolds, the historic South Australian winery, founded in 1854 by Dr Christopher Rawson Penfold. I believe I called him Rawson Penfold in the last video I did, so my apologies for that. I guess Penfolds were one of the at the forefront amongst Australian wineries of driving the move in the early 60s, late 70s away from fortified wine production to table wine. Bin 28, as the first of their bin numbered wines, would have been very much one of the wines that was responsible for those sort of moves. Kalimna Bin 28. Kalimna is a vineyard in the Barossa Valley that was bought by Penfolds in 1945. It's famous for having sort of old bush vines that frequently make up a fair proportion of Penfolds' top wine, Grange. The first wine under the Bin 28 label was produced in 1959, at that stage a single vineyard wine. More recently this has become a multi-vineyard, multi-regional blend, encompassing fruit from obviously the Barossa Valley, but also taking in fruit from the McLaren Vale, Padthway, Mount Lofty, the Fleurieu Peninsula, the Adelaide Hills, Rattenbully, trying to think where else, Robe, and even down to McLaren Vale. So from a wide number of South Australian sources, and I think actually that's increased even since I did the video on the 2014. So in 4 years they've increased the breadth of fruit sources they're using. The winemaking is quite traditional for a Barossa Valley Shiraz, or South Australian Shiraz. The wine ages for a year in oak hogsheads. Those are American oak, although they're seasoned oak, so they shouldn't be giving too much of that sort of vanilla-y nature that American oak can give to wines, but there should be a little of it. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? Firstly, you've just got to say that that's got a wonderfully deep, dark colour. It is practically opaque. I can't see through it there. It's a purple-red sort of colour, not a bluish tint to the purple at this stage. It's had a couple of years, I suppose, to settle down. And even as I just tilt the glass there, you can see it's staining the glass with that vivid purple. I decanted this a few minutes ago, and I was sort of sloshing it a little around to try and get some air into a young wine. And even the sort of the bubbles, the foam that were created, had a purple tinge to them. So lovely intensity of colour, and I suspect probably also quite intense on the nose. So let's see, shall we? Gosh, yes. What have we got there? Couple of aspects there. There's a really juicy fresh fruit that's primarily a sort of a mulberry, a sort of a juicy red fruit. To either ends of the spectrum, there are perhaps little hints of raspberry in there. There's also more sort of dark fruit components as well, sort of more to boysenberry, blackberry, sort of black cherry, actually, sort of a dark cherry, sort of red cherry to black cherry, that sort of note there. So plenty going on there in terms of the fruit. And then layered over the top of that, after you've sort of had the initial rush of fruit, you can pick out some sort of sweet spices. There's vanilla, there's sort of cinnamon notes probably coming from the oak, and touches of cedar. And then over the top of that, the varietal characteristic of Syrah, the sort of white pepper dusting, is sort of quite delicate. And these all fit quite harmoniously together with this lovely juicy fruit. So very attractive nose, I think. Let's have a taste and see what I think. On the palate, the wine's medium to full body, perhaps not quite as full as I'd expect were this is sort of a full-on Barossa Valley Shiraz. But the fullness of the fruit is balanced by a lovely freshness. a mouth-watering freshness. So you've got this sort of mulberry red to black cherry fruit sitting on the middle of your tongue. There's a lovely chocolatey texture. There's a smoothness to the tannins. They're not grainy at all. They're plentiful tannins. I mean, the wine's got good body, but they're rounded, they're fruity, and they're not necessarily giving any astringency. The most of the influence that the pepper has, that the tannins have in terms of grip, is a sort of a pepperiness and that sort of cinnamony spice notes that are wafted across the top of the wine there. Then it's not particularly drying in any particular way. The tannins aren't particularly hard. The alcohol at 14.5%, it doesn't actually seem to say on the bottle, I can't see it there, but certainly the notes say 14.5%, and that would make sense. Doesn't stand out as making the wine hot. I mean, there's a richness and a ripeness to it that clearly there is good alcohol in this, but like I say, it doesn't stand out. It's well harmonised with the fruit there, so you're not getting a hot finish. In fact, at the finish, there's almost a sort of a delicate red fruit perfume. Those sort of mulberry notes are coming out again, and with them notes of those spices, the cinnamon and pepper notes. Perhaps a touch of cedar as well. So actually, what I think about this, I mean, the producer's notes suggest that you could age this until 2038. I mean, I think it would take quite a lot of patience to do that, because this wine is very attractive now. It's very compelling to drink. It doesn't need to soften for the tannins to harmonise. Yes, the fruit is very ebullient, but that's attractive. If you prefer a wine that is more mellow, yes, I mean, leave it for a while, and I'm sure that it's certainly got the freshness. I'm sure it's got the structure to age well for at least 10 years. But I couldn't see that happening in my cellar, because the wine is so enjoyable now. So yes, thank you for watching. This is Penfold's Bin 28. And if you enjoyed, do join us again. Bye now.